I can also apply specific types to that parameter. So I could say, well, will only accept an integer, which is a very common thing to do. And now when I run this URL, it's going to give me this really ugly message. Oh no! Yeah, so you spend some time reading that, but all it means is that this is a test, is not an integer. So if I do 213, we can see that it works. And now it's going to try to cast that value to the proper type. We also have a concept called, this concept is actually what we call model binding. So it works really nicely with simple parameters, but it also works with more complex parameters. Let me show you an example of that. So we need to create a type. Whoops. Something I wanted to print was not printed out. Okay. So typically for this particular demo, I always use the person object, and I think the person object is so boring. So we'll use jugador. I believe, is that right? Jugador, soccer player, right? Or football player. So we'll have ID, and then we'll just do name to keep it, and then numero. Let's do this right, nombre. And ID is still ID in Espanol, right? Okay, good. So I've got this jugador, and in the home controller, we're going to just create a, normally I'd pull a jugador from the database, but I'm going to create a static one for the sake of demonstration, right? Private static jugador. Got to make sure we import the namespace. And then we'll return Messi. Let's go to the view. I'm going to delete this view because I'm going to create a new one. So one of the new things we did in MVC 3 now is when you right-click to add a view, you'll notice here that you have a choice again of which view engine you want to use. You can also, as always, create a strongly typed view. But one of the nice improvements here is if you used MVC 2 or 1, we used to list all the views with the fully qualified namespace. And what that meant was if you had a bunch of types in the same namespace, you would be looking through a long list to try to find it. So we improved this a lot by using the actual class name first, and then we put the namespace after. So if I type J, I can find jugador rather than having to go through an entire list. So it's a tiny little improvement, but these are kind of things that we're trying to focus a lot more on, as well as like the little polish, the little pain points that people run into when they're really building applications. The other thing I can do here, you'll notice here I have this nice list of scaffold templates. We're going to do a lot more with these scaffold templates that, as you'll see in the near future. But what I can do here is I can choose one of these templates, and these are fully under your control. And I'll show you this later, how you can customize these templates. But we have this default set of templates that will code gen using text transformation language, or T4. I don't know why I can't remember all four of the T's, but it's T4 templates, and I'll show you how to customize those later. So since we have one, we're going to build a form to edit the jugador. I'll choose edit, and I'll click add. Let's build this. Now, the thing to note here is you can see that we've included all these fields for them. So when I go to the home page, I have this nice form for editing the jugador. But when I hit the save button, where's that post back going to go, right? So we have a form. When you click the save button, it's going to post the form to my server, but we need something to handle it. And that's where we can actually do something really cool with MVCs. We can supply an action method that will only respond to HTTP post requests. Let me show an example of that. Public action result index jugador. So let's say, for example, let's say I just wrote two methods with the same name, index. This is going to cause a problem because, as I mentioned before, we get this request and we're looking for a method named index on our controller, but I have two methods. So what I can do is I can distinguish them and say, well, this one is only for HTTP post requests. The other one will handle all the other ones, or basically GET. So let's walk through this using the debugger. I'm going to put a breakpoint here and a breakpoint here. And let's attach to the process again. So on my initial request, you notice that we're calling the first index method. Can't find that button. But on the next request, so let's type the Messi, and then what number is he? Anyone know? 10? Now when I refresh this, this should start working. You can see that if I type that. Client validation is working. But let's look under the scenes. Let's look at the source. Ay caramba. Right? There's all this ugliness in here, which is all that metadata that I told you about earlier. It's all serialized into a JavaScript object notation format and sent here. And so this is the way we did it before with MVC2, but now with HTML5 data attributes, it all works. The beauty of the new approach, the unobtrusive approach, is even if you're in a browser that does not support HTML5, it will still work because the browser will ignore the data attributes, but our script will pick up all of that. All right. So that's a validation. And let me see if there's anything else I'm going to show.